who can beat him? What about the Dolphins this week? What do you think of that offensive performance?
I'm a Mike McDaniel guy. I don't know if you know that about me.
Go for it.
So Mike McDaniel was my receiver coach in 2014. That was the year that I signed with Cleveland from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I was a slot. I came in there. I think Josh Gordon got suspended, and it was like, hey, man, I know we brought you in for third downs, and, we paid you as such, but you're going to have to play the X, and you're going to be the 5'6" X receiver for us this year. We drafted Johnny Manziel, so you'll have that. And Mike McDaniel was the receiver coach. And I was like 28. I'm a student of the game. And I study, I watch film. I am very in it. Like, I had never heard anything to that point different about receiver play because I unturned every stone. Mike McDaniel flipped everything that I knew about offensive football and receiver play on its head that year. And he was like, I just need you to trust me. And you're going to have the best season you've ever had. And it's going to change how you think about football. And he hit every box. And so I've been preaching his praises.
Give me an example.
Ever since.
What do you do?
So Mike McDaniel, he has a very quirky personality. I don't know if you know that about him.
I love him.
Very, very quirky personality. He is a football savant. And I know people say, there's people who are mad scientists or offensive gurus. No, he is a Yale graduate. He is the kind of person that probably should be a scientist, but he just loves the game of football, right? And so he approaches it as such. He does not take any cliche. He does not take things the way that they've done. He doesn't, go with the flow because he's been told to do it this way. He gets a kick out of finding a different way, flipping what you think about football on its head, and then putting into practice to say, I told you there was a better way to do it.
So what did he do? You got an example?
Absolutely. So receiver,
position?
I mean, even he would break it down. We spent an entire offseason only working on releases. And I might say, getting off the line of scrimmage, that's how you should be. No, there were 3 kind of releases that you ever did, and you never had to deviate. And his whole thinking was, if you did it this way, 3 releases, and I'll tell you which ones to do before the game, by week 6, nobody will try to press, bump, run you, and you'll have a free release the rest of the season. And we're like, what are you talking about? And it was like, cornerbacks only play 3 ways at DB in press coverage. They either shuffle slowly backwards, or they press you with their hands, and essentially that's actually 2 ways. So there's 2 releases. One was just he gave you the option to do your own thing. And it was like, if they do it this, you do this. And going into the game, he would tell you, hey, he plays it this way, this guy plays it that way. Here's the only release you're allowed to use today. And you would do that one release, and everybody would go. And even how he broke it down, he wouldn't show us film of like football releases. He would show us Allen Iverson film.
Come on.
And he would say a release, the reason why a basketball crossover is so effective, because they have to show you every part of their body moving in one direction before they cross over. Right? There's no rush to it. And he would teach us, and we'd be at practice, and we'd be doing crossovers. And so have you ever seen the clip of Stephon Diggs doing his release, and he's faking like he has a basketball in a football game? That's where that comes from. And so he would break down basketball tape for us to show us how to implement it in a game. And it worked. I mean, we went like 8 straight games to start the season without one person getting jammed and bump and run.
And so now you're saying this information and this style of breaking it all down has now been put onto the feet and in the minds and in the hearts of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Absolutely. And that's not just them. He's now done running backs, quarterbacks. He does offensive line. He was a run game. So he breaks down. This is how his mind works. He breaks down each position the same way. Like when you're running a drag route, it's like they call it a yak angle. Once you beat under coverage, like you're typically told, don't drift upfield on your routes. Don't do it, because that sells the quarterback out. Well, when you have Jalen Waddle and you have Tyreek Hill, he loves receivers who can get yards after catch. That's his thing. And it's by design, because he knows his thing is when you're doing it and you have a free range, you check first, but you drift upfield, because that puts you at an angle to be best when you have yards after catch. And it'll add X amount of yards, X amount of touchdowns, X amount of first downs. So he actually teaches the opposite of everything that I was taught. He teaches you to go in, to go out, where typically they say, hey, if you're going inside, don't get caught in there because you get stuck and it'll be a pick. No, he says, break the rules of everything that they've taught you, because that means they've also taught the defenses that and the D coordinators. So we're going to do the opposite of what everybody else is doing, because that's the only way to innovate. So this is the kind of stuff he sits there in the meeting room and says. And when as players, it's like, oh man, this isn't going to work. But then slowly you start having these games and these career games, and then the game slows down and it starts to become easier. That's why you have players that have played for him swear by him.
So you, Andrew Hawkins, are watching the fourth quarter against the Ravens. You're nodding your head. Yep.
I know what's coming, man. And in-game adjustments. And again, I'm not saying he's the next coming, but I'm telling you from experience. I tweeted this in like 2019.
Yes.
It was like somebody, and it's on there, and I'm going to retweet it today so everyone gives me my credit.
Okay, sure.
But I said there are people talking about Mike McDaniel for a head coaching job. And I said I would bet every dollar in my bank account there is not a single candidate who knows offensive football more than him.
All right, I just found it. That was fast. January 10th, 2019. Hearing multiple teams have inquired about 49er run game coordinator Mike McDaniel for OC. I played one season under Mike, and if they want an offensive guru, I'd bet every dollar in my account that no other candidate understands offensive football the way he does. Every dollar.
So this is before anybody was talking about him. But this is what I know because I've been around the guy, and I know how he obsesses over it. So, yeah, it's really cool to see what he's doing. And this week will, to your point, be one of his biggest tests, right? If they can knock the Bills off, then it's going to be Mike McDaniel mania.
So let me take it. Let me do a McDaniel and go a different way
flip
on
it
it right
on
here.
me.
Flip it
Yeah.
on you, Andrew Hawkins. His not being in San Francisco, is that going to be something we see wind up on a day, a Sunday? It could be Sunday night in Denver. Will they miss him? I mean, that this not being there. I understand Shanahan's got it.
Yeah.
And I understand that the staff knows what they're doing. Mm-hmm. You remove that, though, from somebody else's offensive room. Won't there be a loss?
There will be a loss. Absolutely. And Shanahan is also the GOAT. I'm a big Shanahan fan as well for a lot of the same reasons. And Mike came up under Shanahan. But it's like in anything, there is like the master of something, and the ones who actually are successful are the ones that don't try to copy exactly what they've been taught, right? It's why the Belichick tree typically doesn't have the fruits that you would expect it to, because you can't be Belichick. You have to take the elements of Belichick that fit,
right,
and then put your own spin on it, Mike Vrabel, and then you have the ability to create your own. And I think that's what Mike has done really well. And if Shanahan was sitting right here and you asked him, and he was being honest, hey, is Mike McDaniel leaving you a loss? He would absolutely say yes. There's a major loss there that Shanahan is a good coach. He'll figure it out, right? But absolutely, it'll poke its head at some point.
How about that? And so this was the Mike McDaniel unshowered Mike McDaniel years? Did you hear that soundbite from him?
Yeah, this is the Mike.
Said that he used to go till Wednesday.
Yeah. No,
as
that's
an assistant without showering.
No, I could.
Were you around him as an unshowered?
Yeah.
You can confirm.
I can confirm.
Wow.
He's all ball all the time.
With sight or with the olfactory?
With smell. With the old, with the old sense. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's time. You know, let's push this up to Tuesday.
Yeah, you want to flip the script? How about here's some
this? Yeah.
Here's some shampoo.
Some things are worth continuing the tradition of, Mike.